left those bunch of gangsters behind him now, huh? So this is a
The Virginia Cable Telecommunications Association and your local cable provider presents Cable Reports. Join us now as Cable Reports brings you up to date on current issues facing the Commonwealth through discussions with your local legislators and other policymakers from across Virginia.
From the General Assembly and the City of Richmond, I'm Woody Evans for Cable Reports and Cox Communications, connecting Virginians to their government. And let's connect you with two members from the Chesapeake area. Delegate Matt James, good to see you, sir.
Good to be here.
Senator Kenny Alexander, good to see you again, sir.
Good to be here.
Lots of things going on, not the least of which just recently the Midtown-Downtown Tunnel tolls went into effect. Yes. What impact is that having on your constituents?
Oh, it's a huge impact. It's actually a negative impact. February 1st, the tolls went into effect. We tried to derail that effort since learning of it in late December of 2011. We learned of the tolls just like most of our constituents through media sources. The General Assembly never had an opportunity to vote on it. It was a private-public partnership primarily between ERC and VDOT with a 58-year contract to toll the downtown Midtown Tunnel and the MLK Expressway. We tried to challenge the constitutionality of it in court. The Supreme Court ruled that yet it was constitutional. The court did not hold that it was the best public policy. It wasn't the best we could have done. The court ruled whether or not it was legal. The contract is legal. Thanks to Governor McAuliffe keeping true to a campaign promise, he's already started to amend, to unravel the contract. First thing he did was to allow first responders. The contract was written so bad that first responders from the city of Chesapeake would have to pay a toll.
Those emergency personnel.
Emergency medical vehicles, sheriffs, local police, fire trucks would have to pay a toll if they were responding to an emergency in the city of Chesapeake, from Chesapeake to Portsmouth, and they had to come through downtown tunnel. In addition to that, the private equity firm is authorized to receive a 13.5% return on their investment. And the toll can continue to escalate over the life of the contract, which is a very bad deal for the citizens of Chesapeake, Portsmouth, Norfolk, and the whole region. So I'm hoping that the General Assembly, over the coming sessions, to appropriate enough money to eliminate the toll altogether at the downtown tunnel. There's no new capacity at the downtown tunnel. There's no new tube being built at the downtown tunnel. Only some ceiling tiles and some lights and some pavement, but there's going to be a 58-year toll on a facility that's been paid for over and over again.
Wow, Delegate James, and you had nothing to do with that.
Absolutely nothing. And I think that's part of the frustration of the members of the General Assembly. And as the Senator Alexander said, we're going to continue to try to put up legislation to slow it down, to change some things. And if I have one message to send to our constituents, is we haven't given up, because it's going to have a tremendous impact. City of Portsmouth, for example, did a study with Dr. Cook, and it's just going to have a very negative impact on Hampton Roads. There's no argument that some of the improvements were needed. It's just the deal was a bad deal. The contract, the governor even said that it was one of the worst contracts he's ever written. So we're going to continue to press to see how we can eliminate or minimize this burden on us, because it's going to hurt Hampton Roads as a region. It's going to change commuting patterns. It's going to change work patterns, business community. You can imagine if you had a business that was based in one city and you had to go through the toll multiple times, do you have to change your business model? Do you have to charge more money because that money is going to come out of your business operational funds. And just on citizens having to commute. And in a lot of ways, I think it's bad because it changes the commuting pattern, and it's one of those things that we're trying to get Hampton Roads as a region to come together. Now citizens have to pay an extra tax, as I see it, to travel within his own region. And it could change commuting patterns in terms of if you're a person and you need to go shop, are you going to go west or are you going to go towards Norfolk if you live in Portsmouth? So I think, and for 58 years is a long time. So we've had conversations with the governor and with the Secretary of Transportation, and we're going to continue to press to give us some remedies, not only short-term but long-term. But we are appreciative of the short-term remedies in the first 2 years that he's offered, but there are long-term solutions that we need to work towards.
Well, apparently there has been an impact on commuting patterns. I noticed an article today that suggests that the traffic where the tolls are being imposed was lighter than usual, but I assume that means people are taking other routes.
22% of the normal commuters at the downtown tunnel, midtown tunnel, went over to the Gilmanton Bridge and High-Rise Bridge, which is causing congestion at an already congested area. The High-Rise Bridge is in need of repairs, is in need of new capacity, and the City of Chesapeake, Mayor Alan Krasnoff and his whole council are behind an effort to expand the High-Rise Bridge to 8 lanes. Because that is an artery. The High-Rise Bridge is an artery. You can connect to some of the major roadways from the High-Rise Bridge. But 22% of the people that currently were currently using the downtown midtown tunnel have said no. We're not going to pay these unfair tolls. We're going to go over to the High-Rise Bridge or to the Gilmanton Bridge. The downtown tunnel, again, should be free of a toll. There's no new capacity there, and to charge a full toll. Although the governor has given us some relief, and we applaud Governor McAuliffe, but we are committed to trying to mitigate or outright eliminate the toll at the downtown tunnel. If there's new capacity, we could live with having some fees, but when there's no new capacity and you charge for 58 years, it's just unfair. Delegate James mentioned businesses that have facilities on both sides of the tube. Well, one of my businesses, we have facilities in Portsmouth, and we have facilities in Norfolk. And most of our operations are in Norfolk, and we do a lot of business in Portsmouth. And so we're going to have to change some of our commuting patterns. And I'm in the funeral business, a procession. A person who has to go to the Veteran Cemetery in Suffolk. It is the only veteran cemetery in Hampton Roads. State Veteran Cemetery that's open is in Suffolk. Most of the constituents live either in Virginia Beach and Chesapeake and Norfolk, and if they prefer to be interred in a State Veteran Cemetery, well, they're going to have to either take the High-Rise Bridge, the Gilmanton Bridge, the downtown tunnel, midtown tunnel, to cross to go to Suffolk. So it has altered our behavior and our travel patterns, and it's going to continue to do that until we completely do something different, and we're committed to doing something different there.
And I know your background and training is in workforce development. What's the impact there?
I mean, you can go along in workforce development, economic development. It's going to transcend all of those things. But in workforce development, I think I hope I'm wrong in this, but I think it's going to impact the ability of the workforce to move to the cities. For example, using the city I live in Portsmouth, if you are working and you are, unfortunately, circumstances, you're in a moderate income job, do you want to really have to pay another $1,000 just to commute back and forth to go to work? That's money that's coming off of your income after taxes. And so you're probably going to be faced with a decision as to whether or not you have to move. And it's complicated because we don't have a very strong, this isn't meant to be negative, but we don't have a very strong mass transportation system. So you need a car. Now you're dealing with $1,000 off the top of what your earning income is. And I think at the more extreme vision, impact, you could end up having certain jobs that are going to go unfilled in Virginia Beach and Norfolk because people just can't afford to commute back and forth. So in addition to the tunnel, putting that aside for a minute, we need to take a step, and I've had conversations with William Harrell and his group, we need to take a step at looking at a comprehensive transportation plan for Hampton Roads, because we really, if we say we're a region, we need to have a regional transportation system, whereas people have alternatives to taking cars. That's the long-term solution, and we need to start working on that. Whether it's light rail, whether it's fast buses, we need to take a stab at that and come up with some sort of regional funding stream for the transportation system if we're going to be a region, because I think that's going to be, in addition to the training piece of workforce development, the transportation piece has to be solved.
So the Port of Virginia, which is a huge economic driver,
Yes.
not only in your area, but for the entire Commonwealth, is impacted by all of this as well.
Yeah.
No question about it. Yeah, a lot of the goods come into our port, and the goods go to the various distribution centers around the Commonwealth. A lot of the distribution centers are in Petersburg, Sussex, and throughout 460. As far as Amelia, those containers would have to go through the downtown tunnel or the midtown tunnel. The cost is going to be spreaded to those who purchase goods and services, which are the constituents we serve across the Commonwealth. So you're going to see an increase in the cost of goods in the grocery store and in the retail stores, because the truckers or the containers operators are going to pass that cost on to someone. We just passed a bill that increased some fees and some taxes for transportation. Now we have the taxes or the tolls, if you will, at the downtown midtown tunnel. Hampton Roads is negatively impacted by these tolls, and the fees and taxes just was passed last General Assembly session. So we've been hit twice by additional taxes and fees and now tolls. I think Delegate James is absolutely right. This blocks regionalism. If we're going to be a region, if we're going to be one economy, one financial center, one culture center, have what we call the university system, where Tidewater and Old Dominion and Norfolk State and EVMS creates this consortium of higher learning. We can't have barriers to the consortium. We can't have barriers to regionalism. When you start putting tolls in, to go home, these aren't tourists. These aren't people who are traveling. These are people who are these are our constituents who are actually working and going to church and going to school, and tolls, it will block regionalism. So there are many facets to this tolling problem, and we're not going to give up. We're committed to changing it.
And of course, this is at a time when the Port of Virginia's traffic is going to be increased, because
absolutely.
we have a competitive advantage with a lot of other ports along the eastern seaboard, and the Panama Canal is opening up. We're going to see a lot more traffic there, and we should be in a position of taking advantage of that instead of imposing these kinds of things on our citizenry.
Correct. And those are some of the things that we've talked about, and trying to get the Port of Virginia in this position, because we have a small window of competitive advantage with the deepening of the Suez Canal, and we're one of the few ports, probably the primary port that can benefit from it. So we're working with the port, and I know the governor's real excited about that, and we're going to try to capitalize on that as much as we can, because as you know, the port is one of the state's main primary drivers, and we need to put in place the things that will help them be successful, because a lot of times when you look at, there's a great map that the port shows, and they show all the distribution, all the companies related to the port. And it's an eye-opener. The port is not just a Hampton Roads asset, it's a Commonwealth of Virginia asset.
And of course, there's an impact on all the military installations, obviously, that provide a lot of economic opportunity for citizens.
No question about it. One of the things that we've heard from DOD over the years is that they wanted us to do something about traffic, do something about transportation. And here we go again, putting another barrier into military personnel getting from one facility to another facility. You have a large population of active duty militaries living in Chesapeake and living in Virginia Beach, but they actually work either in Norfolk or they work in Portsmouth. You have the medical hospital, Maryview Medical Center over in Portsmouth, and a lot of the retirees and a lot of active duty personnel prefer to go to Maryview. Well, here's a guy or his family who's serving, keeping us safe, serving, in harm's way. His wife, has to go over to Maryview to deliver, and we just doing everything wrong as it relates to being friendly to our military community, which again is a huge part of our economy, and they provide a lot of resources and a lot of benefits to having a military presence and the facilities in Hampton Roads. We should not do anything to cause the military to think whether or not to move a carrier or to close a facility because of traffic. You know, crime is down. We've done a good job in reducing crime. There are still pockets of crimes in certain communities, but overall crime is down. Our educational system, for the most part, is world class. We have pockets of situations where kids aren't performing as well. Our universities are sought after by students from around the country. They want to come to our colleges and our universities. We have a strong community college system where kids are going for economic development and to get career and technical and vocational training. We just got to fix transportation. I agree with Delegate James. We need to look at transportation in a comprehensive way. And let's move these barriers that will cause businesses or families to think twice about living in Hampton Roads because of these tolls and because of these barriers.
Talk to us about some of those junior colleges especially, and some of the programs the state has in place to encourage students to attend, and also to go beyond that to our institutions of higher learning.
Well, I think that's going to be the key to our economic development future. And I think workforce, I'm a little biased, obviously. That's what I do for a living. That's going to be the key for us remaining competitive. Already, you know, Virginia's proud. We're one of the, voted recently in a lot of surveys, the best state to do business. But as companies that are already here and looking, the key to their success, future locations and expansion is going to be workforce development. So I think what we're trying to do, one of the keys that we try to do is try to get the career readiness, push it down as far as we can in the K through 12. I mean, early childhood education is critical. We know that's important. But what we're trying to do is align the career readiness starting as early as first grade, working and creating positive career pathways for the students. Because if you show them what the job entails, what the duties are, they can pretty much figure out what they think they might want to do when they come out of high school or college. And luckily for us, the business community, including Chamber of Commerce, taking an active role of being that liaison of explaining what those career pathways should entail. So we can tweak the SOLs a little bit and get into the K through 12. And then the community colleges are critical because a lot of young people may not want to go initially to a four-year school, and they can create some career pathways and opportunities out there, career awareness, and we're blessed with having some what I consider very moderately priced, relatively in-state universities that are world class. And I think when you look at that whole mix, we have the ability to produce a lot of students, a lot of young people coming out. And there's another pocket that I think we need to address from the General Assembly level, and those are those people, unfortunately, that have been displaced, and they're often called long-term unemployed or underemployed people. We need to try to get them back into the community college, back into an educational system. Maybe it's an apprenticeship program, so that they can add to the I call the mix of the workforce development market, because we're competing not against North Carolina, we're competing around the world, and we can't allow ourselves to have a system that doesn't maximize our potential for workforce development. I think the House is going to come up with a workforce development overhaul of the Virginia Workforce Council that you'll see they're working with the governor's office right now, and you're starting to see some legislation of helping us build our system as to how we train all those employees that need to be improving their skill sets to come up with the productivity, and not only productivity, but a better living conditions that they have.
Senator, talk to us about how critical the 2+2 program
Yes.
and the TAG program is.
Great, yeah. A lot of students who matriculate from high school, we encourage a lot of those students who are not sure what they want to do to go into the 2+2 program, which is 2 years at the community college. They leave with an associate's degree, and if they do very well, they can transfer directly into one of our four-year schools, our colleges and our universities. They can, in 4 years, they can actually graduate with an associate's degree and a bachelor's degree. A lot of the students who don't do well in high school are not sure. If they go to the community college, they can leave either career ready, they can leave college ready, or they can leave with some kind of certification. They can go into the industry. It's the best bang for the buck, the community college system, because, again, they can take military science, they can take a nursing program, they can take automotive, or they can take HVAC, which is heating, air, and ventilation. There are so many different career paths at the community college. And so the 2+2 is a great way for a student to go to UVA, or go to Old Dominion, or go to George Mason, or go to Hampton University, or they can go to Virginia Wesleyan, or UR, which is University of Richmond. So they can go into some of the private schools as well, because the articulation agreement extends, to all of our college universities. The TAG, which is a tuition assistance grant, we're very pleased to support that, to allow students who want to go to some of the private schools. They can go with the tuition assistance grants, because, as a Commonwealth, we don't give money directly to the university. We give monies to our students, to our constituents, to go to get a higher education.
In terms of workforce development, what about those youngsters who finish high school and they decide for whatever reason, I don't want to go to junior college, I don't want to go to one of these great institutions of higher learning, but I do want to develop a skill so I can earn a living. What about more emphasis on, or some emphasis on vocational education?
I think that's turning the table. We're starting to work with a lot of K-12, a lot of school superintendents, and probably dating myself, but putting vocational training back within high schools. For example, with my organization, the Peninsula Council for Workforce Development, we did an industry survey for manufacturing, and we found that if we can put more vocational training in the community, in the K-12 and high schools, students can come right out of high school and go into, as Senator Alexander mentioned, the industry. If you change, for example, the way that math is taught, from if you're teaching less theoretical math and more applied math, you can set up and you can have students. As a matter of fact, we're having out of Newport News, students going directly from high school going to work for the shipyard because they've learned applied math. Because most companies now, if you give high school students the technology orientation, they can train you. The gap happens is when you haven't had applied math, when you haven't had some of the components, listening for understanding. So what I think the trick is, a lot of high schools now are incorporating that or offering it as electives to their high school students in the 11th and 12th grade. So they come out wanting to go in. And I'm a big component of lifelong learning. Once these students get out into the industry, they will realize that if they want to go to get a promotion, and a lot of companies are encouraging that, in order to get a promotion, you have to go get your associate's degree. So students, it's more non-traditional. So what I think my goal or our goal is to offer high school students as many pathways as they have, but give them options. If they want to go into the industry right out of high school, prepare them for that. If they want to go to this community college, prepare them for that. If they want to go 4 years, that's what they want to do.
Senator, we all know reading is fundamental. It's critical, however, for students at the 3rd grade level to read at that level, because there are a lot of predictors.
Yes.
Talk to us about that.
Yeah, some of the predictors and indicators that we have seen is that if students aren't reading at grade level by the 3rd grade, some public policymakers have predicted how many prisons or detention centers we may need, and Woody, you may have seen those same or heard some of those same statistics. So what we're concentrating on this session is to actually put more emphasis on reading and mathematics, and also assessments. So you may see a repeal of the 3rd grade history and social studies SOL, so that we can test in reading and in math those critical subjects, because you learn to read between ages K3, and for the rest of your life you read to learn. And if we get it wrong by the 3rd grade, it's very costly to have a kid or a student to repeat a grade. And once a student lags behind, and you and I both know, sometimes the student becomes frustrated and drops out. And as Senator James said, we are not competing against North Carolina and Maryland. We're competing against 12 other countries in some of our core subjects, such as math and science and technology and engineering and health. That's where the disciplines should be, and that's where the jobs are. And if we're going to be competitive have a world-class education system, we have to have students reading at grade level by the 3rd grade.
So we want to avoid remedial education because it's time-consuming and very costly.
And it's very costly. Yeah. I mean, you check, if you talk to some of the people in higher ed, whether it's community college or four-year institutions, they're spending a large percentage of their time on remedial training. And that's inefficient and it's costly to the students. And that's also, it has a cooling effect on the student too. Imagine if you graduated from high school and now you've been there for a year or two and you're still in the freshman or sophomore class because you took non-credit classes.
Right. In addition to that, most grants and most scholarships won't pay for remedial education.
Right.
And so students are getting in debt because they're going to have to take out loans to pay for remedial courses in order to get on track to get into their what we call discipline or their degree program. And a lot of students are not even admitted into their degree program until they have passed a core set of subjects.
Sure.
And you can't pass those core set of subjects and if you test, if you don't test well. And so we have to correct that. I think we can correct it early if we put more emphasis, again, on K-3 reading and mathematics. And so we can correct some of those trends. And we can not predict prisons, but let's predict industry and let's predict colleges and let's, predict success instead of predicting failure.
Right. I want to change subjects so we can get another prediction. The Affordable Care Act was upheld by the U.S. Supreme Court last year. It left up to the states the question of Medicaid expansion. So I want a prediction about what's going to happen. But I want you to discuss it because I know it's a real important issue for you and your constituents.
Thank you. What an excellent question. The Supreme Court, of course, said that the Affordable Care Act, some call it Obamacare, but thank you for referring to it as the correct name, that the law was upheld, but Medicaid expansion was left to the states. About 26 states around the country have already decided to expand Medicaid because they see the benefit. One, for Virginia, 400,000 Virginians will have quality access to health care. 30,000 health care related jobs will be created, and $1 billion will be saved in health care costs. In addition to that, the tax dollars that we're sending out of state will stay in the Commonwealth of Virginia. And lastly, the federal government is going to pay for it for the next 3 years. And when it's all said and done, we will have tremendous savings. And it's the moral thing to do. It's the right thing to do. And you have consent from the chamber and some of our advocacy groups, citizen advocacy groups. They all agree that we should be expanding Medicaid because it's the right thing to do.
So $2.1 billion a year the state is losing right now. That money's going elsewhere. We want to cover 400,000 more folks, and we'll create 30,000 jobs. It's the right thing to do, I take it.
Absolutely. You said it much better than I can.
So no-brainer.
I mean, to me, it's a no-brainer. I mean, I think that, and I'm optimistic that we will be able to come up with some compromise because, everyone has talked since I've been elected. I'm on my 3rd term. They talk about the Virginia way, and I have to believe that the Virginia way is not to allow our tax dollars that we're paid to the federal government being redistributed to other states. It's just we need to do that, and I'm hoping that we can come forward with some solution, some compromise to do that because I think to have 400,000 people, as has been estimated, not covered, we need to address that.
Great. Well, thank you both for being here. Delegate Matt James, Senator Kenny Alexander. Good to see you, and good luck in the remaining days of the session.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching Cable Reports, brought to you by the Virginia Cable Telecommunications Association and Cox Communications, connecting Virginians to their government. Until next time, I'm Woody Evans.